Shalom, peace, my people. In this video, I don't want it to get taken out of content. I want my women to be able to humble themselves and hear what Ahaya is saying about the daughters of Yasharallah. This full video is not strictly about the daughters of Yasharallah. I'm also dealing with the new covenant. So I'm also speaking to those who still caught up into that new covenant, aka the New Testament. So I'm trying to reach the daughters of Zion, the daughters of Yasharallah, by pointing things out. And it would be great if you drop your pride, if you tone down your arrogance just to hear what the word has to say in this book. And I want to correlate things with other scriptures to make a point with this verse 21 right here. Now, some of you probably went along and read it and have an understanding to it already, or an interpretation. But would you allow me to correlate this verse to make it make sense with Isaiah chapter 4, verse 1? No, this is not a polygyny video, but it does, it does resonate and it does correlate, but that's not what I'm on. Now, I'm going to read this verse and then I'm going to go into Isaiah 4, but I want to read this whole chapter just to put things in perspective and put an end to that new covenant, that New Testament. So hopefully the daughters of Yasharallah, the men of Yasharallah, can really see the importance of turning away from idolatry and returning unto Ahaya, our power. Okay, so verse 21 reads, "How long will you go about, O you faithless daughter? For Ahaya has created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall court a man." What does that mean? A woman shall court a man. Why is Ahaya saying that? See, some people get caught up on just that one phrase. A woman shall court a man, then they start interpreting. But you must look at the whole thing, right? That's why we're going to read the whole thing. But you must read the whole verse. How long will you go about, O you faithless? You must have unequivocal faith in Ahaya for all things, health, situations, circumstances, wife, husband, brother, daughter, son, etc., right? In all matters, unequivocal faith. But here, this is talking about the daughters not having faith in Ahaya, keeping his word and his covenant and doing that beautiful thing. And he's bringing out the pride and the arrogance of our daughters of Zion and Yasharallah. So he says, how long will you go about being this way, you faithless daughters? For Ahaya has created a new thing in the earth. Why is this a new thing that a woman shall court a man? Give you a second. See, it's a new thing because traditionally, custom-wise, a man will court a woman. And when he's courting a woman, he's providing everything. He's coming with the standard. He's coming with the law of marriage, pretty much, of what to have, right? So, pretty much, the man is choosing his wife, right? And I'm not going to go into it. We understand that, virgin women who still have their mother and father, the mother and father, you give consent. We if we are in tune with the law, we understand that you ask the father for his daughter's hand. But we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about the the construction of a man and woman. That a man will court a woman. He chooses his wife. And she don't have to come with anything. Right? She just come with her and then come with her vows of marriage. Now, reason why this is a new thing, because nowadays when a higher, because this is about higher bringing us back, when a higher brings us back, the women are going to be so humble because they've been in captivity and they have been the head. They have been the rulers over men, and they have been charging men to have these certain type of qualities. Um, these certain type of vain necessities, car, job, own home, businesses, credit, um, able to support them in a certain type of way, right? And if not, they can just take a dump on them and talk about them, and the curses, pretty much the curses. So we don't want to go too hard on the ladies. But what's going to take place when we go back is very few men is going to return back, because 90% of the men are not going to serve a higher. They're going to be cut off from a higher. So 90% of the men will not return into a higher or power. Only 10%. And we must take into account that, the 2/3, and the 2/3 is the whole nation of Yasharala. Not just the men and women, but all. Men, women, children, all. Old, young, all. Right? 2/3 of all shall be cut. So that's already cutting our population down right there. And then when you add to the equation 90% of the men cut off from, will not return until a higher cut off from them. Let's go into that. So it don't just seem like I'm just talking, right? I know my people are. They want to see it. I spoke about this in other videos. And I think I just did something about this recently. Then you start at verse 12. You can read the whole chapter to make it plain. Then verse 12 says, and Ahiah has moved men far away, talking about the men of Yasharallah, because this is dealing with Yasharallah. And there is a great forsaking in the midst of the land. Why? Because the men Ahiah has removed, purged, have cut them off. So it's a great forsaking in the midst of the land. Then verse 13, and if 1/10 remain in it, then see that 1/10 is 10%. It's only 10% shall remain from this stump, right? Now, if 1/10 remain in it, then that shall again be consumed, right? So 90% will be consumed, but 1/10 shall sit, shall not be consumed. But like what's that, terebinth tree, and like an oak whose stump remains, right? That 10% is that stump who will remain when they cast their leaves, so the holy seed shall be its stump. So let me say that properly, because I didn't say that properly. The holy seed is going to be the stump. So out of that 10%, they're going to be humble, refined, dedicated, compassionate, and understanding, lawful men of a higher. And it's not going to be that many. So the women that's going to take place in creating the holy seed, which shall be the stump left over, because Ahiah is the tree of life. So this is how I go. Like this in scripture. Ahiah is the tree of life. That's one of his names. From that tree, you got branches. So then you got the branch, which is the king governorship, the Messiah role, right? Not the New Testament Messiah. Just the anointed one from the seed of David. Then you got the anointed one of Zadok from the high priest. That's a branch. Then you got the prophets. That's a branch. Then you got Yasharallah. That's a branch. Then you got counselors. That's a branch. See, it's all stemming from the tree of Ahia. It's the entity that Ahia uses to govern the nation. So this holy seed, which shall be the stump, is the population that Ahia is going to use to repopulate his people, because 2/3 is going to be cut off and 90% of the men is going to be cut off and not returning to Ahia. So this is how you go all the way back to Jeremiah 31. Then you go back to verse 21. How long will you go about, you faithless daughters? For Ahia has created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall court a man. So then these women that's going to court a man when we go back, and Ahia is repopulating the people from the remnant, they're going to be meek, humble, not prideful and arrogant women. So you arrogant, prideful women who don't take accountability to nothing that you do, feel like your walk is perfect, you do nothing wrong, you play victim, or you refuses to see any wrong within you, and you don't acknowledge your pride, your iniquities. You don't look at Ahia's word as superior. Like, you put yourself before his word. Like, you put yourself before polygyny. You know what I'm saying? Like, as is, like, you going against Ahia's word. Or you say things like, you go against women who is totally in submission to everything of Ahia. No matter what it is, she's in submission. And you talk against it. And you conjure up things to speak out against it. You're arrogant and you're prideful. If you don't recognize, then there's a problem. This is one of the things I have experienced lately. And I know what it can do to men and how it can alter a man's mind and heart. You know? But we're going to go to Isaiah 4, right? And then it says, and in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by your name to take away all reproach. Then it says, in that day shall the branch of Ahia be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and comely for those of Yasharallah who have escaped, right? So then in verse 3, we ain't gonna read it all. And it shall come to pass that he or she who is left in Zion, and he or she who remains in Yerushalayim, shall be called holy. See what I'm saying? Everyone who has been recorded among the living in Yerushalayim. See that? Holy. I'm glad I did read that. Correlated with the holy seed. Because this right here, 7 women taking hold of one man, they are now taking the position of courting, meaning they are the initiators now. That's a new thing that Jeremiah chapter 31 verse 21 is talking about. That's a new thing because the man is the initiator. But now when we go back, since it's going to be very few men, and it's an obligation to take place of raising and bearing the holy seed from through the men with the women, right? That women will have to humble themselves, become meek, not be the same as they were in captivity, not be prideful and arrogant. They're going to have to look at their men and look at them as beautiful, suitable, holy men, even at a low stature, coming with nothing, being part of the remnant, being broke, strapped with the armor of righteousness of Ahia. Meek men, caring and compassionate men, loving and kind men, not coming with status, you know, with fine golds and riches, but that they will take hold of this man and be like, you know what? We tired of being like, we tired of being like the heathen. We tired of living like the captive babies that we used to be. You know what? We tired of just promoting monogamy and being, being the feminists, being so stern in monogamy. Let us just, you know what? We're gonna eat we're gonna eat of the word of Ahia, our word, and live by His word. We're gonna eat according to the dietary law, and not the heathen way, and listen to the heathen word, or we're gonna wear our custom clothing, our fashion, our way, right? Then they're gonna say, we're gonna do all of these things, the things that made us desirable to the westernized world. We're gonna turn from that and not wear skimpy, whorish clothing, thick eyelashes, weaves, tight clothing, see-through clothing, exposing their body parts and looking to be desired by men, wanting them to worship their goddess-like look, right? Because one thing about a woman nowadays is a lot of women are pretty naturally, but now they put on the makeup and the lashes and all this other stuff because now they don't want to be acknowledged as a beautiful woman. Now they want to turn into a goddess before a man or before the world. They want to be treated like a goddess, like bow to me now, like adore me. You know what I mean? But these women that's going to be obligated and ready to fulfill that Isaiah chapter 6 verse 13, bear the holy seed, for that holy seed will now be the stump of Yasharallah, who repopulates the land and the nation, for 2/3 is going to be cut off and 90% of the men is going to be cut off. They have to be meek, humble women, meek, humble men. So they're going to say, only let us be called by your name, right? Not by B's and H's and goddesses and Barbies and bad B's and, African American, Dominican, just let us be called by your name, meaning take upon the name that we have that represents Ahia. Like, my name is Dowie. So she will want to be a Dowie. Like, I'm going to take upon your name and beloved your king, Ahia. And I'm going to beloved you and beloved who you love, because I know he's the only power, the source of our salvation. Let me be called by your name. You call me Dowie, Dawada, David, whatever. It's all the same to me. It's different languages, right? Different forms of Hebrew or, doesn't really matter to me. And they're going to be like, let us be called by your name so we can take away our reproach. It's a reproach to be called all the things that our daughters of Yasharallah and Zion are being called. Bad B, Barbie, you know what I'm saying, stallions, you know what I'm saying, B's, H's, African American, all these bywords and proverbs, which is in the curses of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 15 through 68. And also don't forget, if you're going to read about the curses, where it starts at and goes into more depth in Leviticus chapter 26. So this is how you correlate Isaiah 4 with Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 21, to understand what does it mean now that he would do a new thing and make a woman court a man. This is what this means. The example is Isaiah chapter 4. Now I'm going to read the whole thing of Jeremiah chapter 31. So we're going to just go into this thing. Let's praise Ahiah with this, have some fun, and let our heart be right. Thus says Ahiah, the people who survived the sword found grace in the wilderness. When Yasharallah sought for rest, Ahiah has appeared to me for a way, saying, I have loved you with an everlasting love. Therefore I have remained true to you. Yes, his covenant, right? Again, I will build you and you shall be built, O Virgin of Yasharallah, and shall again be adorned with your tabourines and shall go out dancing with those who make merry. You shall yet plant vines upon the mountains of Samaria. The planters shall plant and shall enjoy the fruit. For there shall be a day when the watchmen upon Mount Ephraim shall cry. Or Mount Yasharallah, right? Shall cry, arise and let us go up to Zion, to Ahiah our power. For thus says Ahiah, sing with gladness for Jacob, and shout on the hilltops of the nations, proclaim praise, and say, O Ahiah, save your people, the remnant of Yasharallah. Because this hasn't happened yet. And there's going to be two gatherings. First gathering, Zion goes back. Second gathering, Ahiah sends the seed of David to come get them, deliver them from the nations. And then for thus says Ahiah, sing with gladness for Jacob, and shout out on the hilltops of the nations, proclaim praise, and say, O Ahiah, save your people, the remnant of Yasharallah. Behold, I will bring them from the north country and gather them from the ends of the earth. I love that ends, because, it gives you a confirmation and a feeling that the world is flat. This is another thing that, me and my Isha, wife, are not on one accord with. I decide not to say anything about it now. I just be like, I understand what the book is saying, and it's clear, especially when it says that the earth takes shape like a seal at the bottom of it, right? Circle, flat. But, it's certain things that when you're dealing with combativeness, certain things that's so simple still doesn't register, right? Then behold, I will bring them from the north country and gather them from the ends of the earth. And with them the blind, see that? This is the weakest ones, not the strong of Yasharallah or Zion. Ahiah said he's going to turn the weaklings into a strong nation, the meek, the humble, not the pride and the arrogant, not the sure of oneself. But the hope for Ahiah is the ones he's going to deliver. With them, the blind, the ones who can't see, and the lame, and those who is disabled, and the woman with child, So if you pregnant, you getting delivered too. So you don't have to have the baby in order to get delivered from here. And she who labors with child together, a great company shall return there. So you can be delivering the baby and get it delivered on the way out, or you can be pregnant and get delivered on the way out. It don't matter, right? But a great company shall return there. Verse 8. Then they shall come weeping, and with supplications will I lead them. I will make them walk by the rivers of waters in a straight way, where they shall not stumble. For I am a father to Yasharallah, and Ephraim is my firstborn. Right? Yasharallah. Yes, Yasharallah is his firstborn son. In this place right here, Ephraim is representing Yasharallah. That's Exodus chapter 4, verse, I believe, 22. Yeah. When he tells Pharaoh, Yasharallah is my son, even my firstborn. Like I was explaining to my Isha the other day, this is why it's so pivotal to understand this, because in Psalms chapter 110, Ahaya goes on to say that I have made David my firstborn. You know what I'm saying? For now, David is his firstborn. That's why I call him my son. Proverbs in different places, right? But it's a little sidebar. Verse 9. Hear the word of Ahaya, O you nations, and declare it in the islands far away, and say, He who scattered Yasharallah will gather him and keep him like a shepherd keeps his flock. So meaning that the nations who came and got us didn't scatter us. Ahaya scattered us. So we can't fault no one else but Ahaya. We can't even fault Ahaya. We just give him the credit. He's the creditor to that. He scattered us, so he will gather us as well. Right? And he will use whoever he's going to use to gather us, and he will just do it himself. Verse 10, For Ahaya has redeemed Jacob and ransomed him from the hand of him who was stronger than he. Of course, these nations were stronger than us because we're under the curse. We're the tail, not the head. But Ahaya is stronger. With a strong arm, he's going to redeem us and ransom us from the hand of those who are stronger than us. Verse 11, Therefore they shall come and sing in the height of Zion, and shall flow to the goodness of Ahaya, for wheat and for wine and for oil and for the young of the flock and of the herd, and their soul shall be like a watered garden, and they shall not languish in sorrow any more. Then shall the virgin rejoice in the dance, both young men and old together. For I will turn their mourning to joy, and will comfort them, and make them rejoice for their sorrow. All of this is about how you're delivering us. Before we even get to verse 31. And I will satiate the soul of the priests with fatness, feed them their offerings, sacrifices. And my people shall be satisfied with my goodness, says Ahaya. Verse 14. Thus says Ahaya, a voice was heard in Ramah, lamentations, crying, and bitter weeping. Raquel, weeping from her children, refuse, or I think right here it says Rachel, sheep, because Rachel means ewe or sheep. Sheep weeping for her children, refused to be comforted for her children, because they were not. Thus says Ahaya, refrain your voice from weeping, and your eyes from tears, for your work shall be rewarded, says Ahaya, and they shall come again from the land of the enemy. Right? So, surety that he's going to deliver us. Verse 16, and there is hope for your future, says Ahaya, that your children shall come again to their own border. I have surely heard Yasharallah or Ephraim's bemoaning himself. Thus, you have chastised me, and I was chastised like a bull unaccustomed to the yoke. Turn me back, and I shall be turned, for you are Ahaya, my power. Verse 18. For after I had returned away, I repented, and after I was instructed, I struck upon my thigh. I was ashamed and even confounded, because I did bear the reproach of my youth. It's talking about Yasharallah, speaking third person. Is Ephraim my dear son? That's Yasharallah. Is he a darling child? For whenever I speak of him, I earnestly remember him still. That's the covenant he made within Isaiah chapter 49. I remember him still. Therefore, meaning that he has not forgotten about Zion. He's engraved us in the palm of his hand in Isaiah 49. I earnestly remember him still. Therefore, my inward parts are trouble for him. That's kind of ironic. It says inward parts right here. Because Ahaya in this chapter says he's going to put his law in our inward parts and outward, you know. So that's, it's quite interesting that he says this. I earnestly remember him still. Therefore, my inward parts are troubled, right? So his soul, right? And his spirit, his heart. For him, I will surely have mercy upon him, says Ahia. Verse 20. Set up road marks for yourself. Make signposts. Set your heart towards the road. The way on which you go. Turn back, O Virgin of Yasharallah. Turn back to these your cities. Return back home. Return. Then it speaks. The infamous verse that I started this with, right? How long will you go about, O you faithless daughter? For Ahia has created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall court a man. Correlate this once again with Isaiah 4. Then you're gonna pretty good understanding again if you didn't hear what I said in the beginning. What a woman shall court a man means and the new thing that's created. For it was our custom for the man to court, but Ahai is doing a new thing to humble women, from women to be humbled. For certain circumstances that took place. So hopefully you can just rewind this back if you like. And I talks about it in the beginning. And we're going to carry on. Verse 22. Thus says Ahai of hosts, the power of Yasharallah. Again, they shall use these words in the land of Yahweh and in its cities when I shall bring back their captivity. Ahaya Brakata. O inhabitations of justice and mountains of holiness. And there shall dwell in Yahweh itself and in all its cities together, farmers and those who go forth with flocks. For I will satisfy the weary soul, and I will replenish even sorrowful soul. Thank you, Ahia. For I have, and he will, satisfy the weary soul, for we are, because we didn't really believe in things going to deliver us. And a lot of us is in situations, physically, mentally, spiritually, that we just we so weary. We need to be replenished. We need guarantees. We need certainties and know that the High is with us. So he says he's going to, satisfy the weary soul and replenish every sorrowful soul. Those who just feel that low, right? Then verse 25, Behold this, I awake. Behold this, I awoke and looked on, and my sleep was sweet to me. Verse 26, Behold, the days come, says Ahia, that I will sow the house of Yasharallah and the house of Yahweh, or I will sow the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom with the seed of man and with the seed of beasts. You know what I'm saying? Bringing it back. Repopulating. Verse 27, And it shall come to pass that just as I have watched over them to pluck up and to pull down and to break down and to destroy and to afflict, through the curses, so will I watch over them to build and to plant, said Ahia, the blessings. In those days they shall say no more. Oh my goodness, come on, get out of here. In those days they shall say no more, the fathers have eaten sour grapes, and the children's teeth are set on edge. But everyone shall die for his own iniquity. Every man who eats sour grapes, his teeth shall be set on edge. Now that's key too, because Isaiah 53 talks about Yasharallah going into this captivity, suffering from sicknesses and illnesses because of what our forefathers did beforehand. We inherited the curse that started with them. So a lot of diseases, a lot of sicknesses, and a lot of deaths were put upon their descendants, for their descendants, through their stripes, they're enduring the process and stages that we're going through right now with refinement, are the stripes that healed them for their past iniquities, transgressions. that they're able to prolong the nation of Yasharala and the covenants to still withstand and be ongoing through David and Zadok, the high priest, and Yasharala, and so on and so on. So that's what I, immediately get once I read that. It's a beautiful thing that now it's going to be very stern and strict, but everyone shall die for his own iniquity. Everyone who now is no cast of blame is on you. And that goes in correlation more with Ezekiel as well, to I believe Ezekiel 18. That's talking about a whole different scenario situation, but this right here is really touching. But everyone shall die for his own iniquity. Every man who eats sour grapes, his teeth shall be set on edge. 30, verse 30. Behold, the days come, says Ahiah, that, here we go. Here we go now. Here we go. Now we talking about the new covenant, y'all. This is what I'm talking about. That's what I was trying to get into, man. Now, to get out that New Testament, this is the new covenant right here. Everything he told about, this is Ahiah delivering us, bringing us back, doing all these great things for us, and then now he's about to go into this new covenant. And that's ironic that talking about everyone shall die for his own iniquity is the verse before the new covenant that they're about to get into. That's pretty dope. So that really just kills and shows no validity in the New Testament and that idol over there. There's no salvation with that, only through a higher. In his word, like he says, wait for me, you will not be ashamed. But verse 30, behold, the days come, says Ahiah, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Yasharallah and with the house of Yahweh. So a new covenant with the northern kingdom and a new covenant with the southern kingdom. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of Egypt, to bring them out of the land of Egypt. My covenant which, they broke, although I was their master, their king, says Ahiah. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of the northern kingdom after those days, says Ahiah. Let me take that back. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Yasharallah after those days, right? After, says Ahiah, I will put my Torah or law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts and will be their power and they shall be my people. That's the new covenant that hasn't came to pass yet. It's not written in our inward parts. His Torah, his full Torah, his full law. It's not there for us to not commit iniquity, for us to just walk uprightly within his law and his word, his testimony, statute, judgments, ordinances, all of that, right? And then it goes on to say, like how he always does, he elaborates more so you can clearly get the sign. Verse 33, and they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know Ahiah. We know this hasn't came to pass yet, right? Because we still teaching one another. If the new covenant was here, no one would have to teach the New Testament. No one would have to teach the new covenant. For it says, and they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know Ahiah. For they shall all know me. From what? From the least, the less of them, to the greatest, to the great of them, to the majority of them, to all of them, right? To the least, to the humble man, to the greatest, to the fat, prideful man, or the greatest, the bigger the role, bigger the position, or at least the less the person, To me, there's still no less person in Yasharallah. You all bring something to the table, and we can learn from each other, from the least to the greatest. Ahiah feels the same way, of course. From the least of them to the greatest, says Ahiah, for I will forgive their iniquity, and I will no longer remember their sin. So that right there alone kills off the New Testament. Turn from that idol. Let Ahiah do what he gonna do. Let him redeem us, deliver us, bring us back. Humble the women, humble the men. Set up the stump, put the holy seed in place. Let the kingdom of David be start the no start the construction of the kingdom of David. Get the temple going. Set up his entity, which is the governor, the king, kingdom of the king, which or the prince. The house of David, the high priest. The house of Zadok, the priesthood. The house of Lawiah or Laway or the whites, and to get things going right, and let Ahia anoint himself. Sorry, you guys, before the world. Let the nations bow before him. Let Yasharallah be redeemed, respected. Let the nations bow, right? Kiss our feet, acknowledge us, and be such in shock. Like, oh, this whole time we've been acting like this and being cruel and mean to the Most High's chosen people. Let them do all of that. Just get out the New Testament, get out of all religions. Get out of Buddhism, get out of Christianity, get out of being a Hebrew Israelite, aka your Hebrew Yisraelite, New Testament follower, disciple of Christ, disciple of Yahusha, disciple of Yeshua, disciple of Yahushua, disciple of I think it's Yahusha, Yahoshe. I can continue with the certain names, even though those in the Bantu. Whoever I forgot what you guys call him, called that idol in the New Testament. Even turn from I can't think of the name right now. I want to say it, but I can't think of the name. Just my Bantus, y'all just return back to Sonini, Somnini, Nanini, Sonini, Nanini, Sonini, Nanini. You know what I'm saying? And in the English is Ahia, sure, Ahia. The pronunciation, the pronunciation of it. And you can always download the Paleo keyboard to write Abba's name out with the ancient Paleo alphabets. Or you can just write it Ahaya. Or I try to really go away from putting a YAH because that's the idol. It's really Ahaya, or Haya, which means Haya means to exist, and to put the in front, it's making it singular, a singular person. That's why it's Ba. You know what I mean? Meaning it's your singular father. Haya. I exist. You know what I'm saying? That's who he is, the existing one. Turn away from turn away from the Yiddish, the modern day Jews, which are not us, we're not Jews. Turn away from their idol, the Canaanite idol, Yahweh, Yahweh, Yahuwah, Yahoo, etc., etc. Turn away from that moon god. Turn away from Asherah. It's a lot of that. Talking about God got a wife. Turn away from all that idolatry, man. All forms of idolatry. Turn from it. You know what I'm saying? Something is sticking in my head right now. Though, like when I said the English, how to say Ahia's name in English, like Ahia, Ahia. My fault. It just sticking to me like, nah, don't leave that in the video. Nah, that's not the English. Ahia, Ahia is not the English. You know what I'm saying? That's how you pronunciate it. In the true Hebrew. You know what I'm saying? I just had to say it. I love you, Abba. It was in my soul, vexing me, so I had to say something. But fully turn away from all idolatry. For like verse 33 says, I will forgive their iniquity, and I will no longer remember their sin. Then verse 34, thus says Ahia, who gives the sun for a light by day, and the fixed order of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divides the sea when its waves roar. Ahia of hosts is his name. Then it says, if those audiences depart from before me, says Ahia, then the seed of Yasharallah also shall cease from being a nation before me forever. It's funny that Ahia always using this kind of parallel Same one that he used in Jeremiah chapter 33 concerning the covenant with the seed of David and the seed of Levites and the seed of the high priest. That if you take away the sun and the moon from, its audiences, from coming, like the sun from showing in the day and the moon from showing in the night. If you can stop that, like if you can stop day and night from happening, then you can end the talks of the covenant with David and the high priest and the Levites. Same thing he said right here, you know what I'm saying? So you know that the sun and the moon is special in a sense that, how it's being used. So that's why I'm a lunar Sabbath keeper, man. Technically, I don't really say lunar Sabbath. I just say I keep the calendar of Ahia. Like he says in Genesis chapter 1, verse 14 through 18. You know what I'm saying? How, these great lights are for signs, seasons, times, all of that. You know what I'm saying? So they're very significant. So just turn away from all idolatry, man, for real, because we definitely don't need it. And it says, thus says Ahia, if, verse 36, if heaven, thus says Ahia, if heaven above can be measured, and the foundations of the earth explored below, then I will also cast off all the seed of Yasharallah for all that they have done, says Ahia. Then verse 37, behold, the days come, says Ahia, when the city shall be built, right, to Ahia, from the tower of Haniel, or see how they put Haniel, that L, that's Baal and Baal. That's Baal worship. You know what I'm saying? That Baal worship is Babylonian. Just a form. It just derives from the Canaanite Baal. So we know the name is not Haniel. It's most likely, don't really know what it could be. You know what I'm saying? Don't even know exactly, but I know that's not the pronunciation. Just knowing the L is at the end of it. So it's not the Tower of Haniel. Nope. Then it's like to the corner's gate, verse 38. And the measuring line shall go further straight to the hill Garib, or Gareb, and shall turn around to go to Goath. Verse 39, and the whole valley of the dead bodies of the ashes and all the fields as far as the brook of Kidron to the corner of the horse gate toward the east shall be holy to Ahia. It shall not be plucked up nor poured down any more forever. So I guess these are just lots of measurements to how far, Ahia goes, is our land, or his holy place. So I'm going to cap off the video right here. I know it was very long-winded. I had a situation today to where, my spirit needed this. I needed to vent. I needed to release. I needed to talk. I tried to institute a few things that I experienced or go through without being disrespectful and pointing the finger too much, or what I'm saying, because we all play pivotal roles. It's we all have to acknowledge our doings, and I do acknowledge my doings. But I just ask the women, just humble yourself before you know what I'm saying? Humble yourself before your husbands. Walk perfectly in the order of Ahia, meaning just continue to stride. Never go against thus saith. Never go against his ways or customs or whatever. Because in the end, all he's going to do is humble you. Because we're all going through a refinement process. And I understand that not all the men of Yasharallah is easy to deal with. So I'm not going to sit there and just say like it's just all on y'all. But you guys play a big role. If you guys can humble yourself and, really turn to all the ways of Ahia, it make this place and this walk a little bit easier, But all praise to Ahia, Barakatah. I like to end this off with a prayer. Salakia, Ahia, all my iniquity and all our iniquities. For we ask you to pardon all our iniquities and to receive us graciously. For we render the cows of our lips, the sacrifices and offerings of our lips, of Hosea chapter 14, verse 1 through 2. For you is our hope. So may you, Salakia, forgive us, Ahaya, of all our iniquities and my nation iniquities, and pardon us, receive us graciously. May you pardon the iniquity of us that's seen and unseen, heard and unheard, known and unknown, intentional and non-intentional. For these things do come about within us. And you are the all-knowing, you see and know everything. May your higher Yidra, Rafa, Gahach, through your herbs, through your spirit, through your love, through your word, and heal us of our Maku, Le, Ayin, Rosh, Ra'ach. May you heal our heads, our heart, our minds, our bodies, our soul, our spirit. Our brains, have mercy unto us. May you cleave unto us. May you be our strength. For when you choose to strengthen some of us, the situation is too much. May your compassion endure forever. And may you strengthen the weak ones. And remember and hear the call of your remnant. I ask you, Ahaya, may you crash the money. May you crash the dollar. And remember Yasharallah, and humble those who mock and make fun of you and of your people and of your anointed ones. May you crash the dollar and bring down these nations. Make them lick the dust and come crawling before you. May you set up that root, dust the crown off of your anointed ones, set them in place, and may your heart be towards your great city and your great people. May you hear the cries of the hopeless. May you heal the pain of the hopeless, the broken, those who's been stripped and afflicted and has inherited a doubtful spirit and having trouble during these troubled times. May you bring together the baby mothers and the baby fathers, and may the kids become more easygoing for the parents. May you strengthen the hand of the weak ones. May you hold us guilty no more. May you find room to honor. May you take back your sword from upon us. May you lessen the whip, lessen the chastening, and bring on more of your compassion. And may you give Yasharallah and the remnant a double spirit of, I'm going to just say Elijah and Elisha, to be faithful and, unequivocal servants to you before any nation and before their people. In your holy name I pray. Ahaya Salah.